Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this latest Integrity Systems Company webinar, which is all about learning how to do a PIC reconciliation on the NLIS database. My name is Cherie Young, and I'm the Communications Manager here at Integrity Systems Company, and I'll be your host tonight. Before I get started, I just wanted to let you know that this session is being recorded, and the recording plus any questions and answers that have come through during registration or that you put through during the webinar will all be put together in a document and sent out to you along with these slides. So you've got those as a resource. We acknowledge that is quite a bit to take in with this, so I just want you to be able to know that you're going to get a pack with a lot of information in it so you can rewatch and go back over things if you need to. We have a Q&A box in the bottom of the screen, and we encourage you to pop your questions in there as well as they come to mind during the webinar this evening. We have a team of people on hand ready to answer your questions, so please don't be shy to pop them in there. We have got quite a large number of producers registered for this webinar, over 1,000, which is really fantastic. So just to let you know, we are expecting some, fairly significant numbers. So if we don't get to all your questions during the webinar, we'll get to them after, and they'll be sent out to you as a question and answer transcript following this evening in the coming days. So thank you all for joining and giving us your time this evening to go through PIC reconciliations. It's a really important topic, and it's great to see so many of you here. I just wanted to start just with an overview of what we're going to cover this evening. So I'll start off with just a brief overview of Integrity Systems Company and what we do and the programs we run. And then we've got Elizabeth Bradley, who's our Manager of Quality, Policy and Compliance. She'll be joining to take you through a bit more information on the PIC reconciliations and why they are such an important part and something that you should be trying to get done at least once a year. Then we've got George Basher, who'll come in and run a demonstration of how to do a PIC reconciliation. So he'll be going into the NLIS system, showing you how to do that and what you need, all the steps you need to take to undertake that. So I'll just go into the next slide. Basically, this one is a bit of just a background on Integrity Systems Company. So by way of background, in case you didn't know, Integrity Systems Company is a wholly owned subsidiary of Meat and Livestock Australia. ISC was formed in 2017, and our chief task is to manage the red meat integrity system. So the integrity system's key focus is your on-farm assurance, animal identification, and traceability. And all of these things come together to ensure that we continue to meet the requirements of market access, both here and overseas. ISC is guided by SafeMeat, which is a partnership between industry and government, and we also take operational advice from the Supply Chain Task Force, which is made up of a variety of representatives from the PIC industry councils that represent the livestock industry. So that's a bit of a brief background on what ISC does. I'm just now going to take you through a deeper dive into the key programs that we operate and manage at ISC. So the first one being the National Livestock Identification System, or the NLIS. So this is Australia's system for the traceability of cattle, sheep and goats. It reflects our commitment and Australia's commitment to biosecurity and food safety, and provides Australia with that competitive advantage overseas, which we all appreciate. All animals are identified with an accredited NLIS tag or device from their property of birth, and as the animals are bought and sold and moved along the supply chain, all of that movement data needs to be updated into the NLIS. And using this information, we're able to sort of provide a life history of that animal's movements. So as you can understand, this system greatly enhances our ability to track livestock during a disease outbreak or a food safety incident, and it is underpinned by state and territory legislation. So it's just one of those things that just has to be done. Now, the current system is getting a bit old. It's over 20 years old now, and a major project is underway to uplift the NLIS. So we're tracking to have that ready by the end of June in 2026, and it will offer a far more user-friendly interface. It'll be much more intuitive and easier to use. So we're really looking forward to bringing that through. Now, the other key program that we focus on at ISC is the Livestock Production Assurance Program, or LPA as we call it. It's an on-farm assurance program, which again, it underpins our market access for our Australian red meat. It covers biosecurity, animal welfare, and food safety. And accreditation in this program is basically a tick of assurance from your product right through to the consumer. And then in the middle there, we've got the LPA ENVD, or the NVD, the National Vendor Declaration, which is a legal document which is used to communicate the food safety and treatment status of your animals as they move through the supply chain. Now, central to all of this is the Property Identification Code system, or your PIC. PICs are allocated by your state and territory governments, and they basically identify your property as a livestock producing property. And you need to have a PIC to access the NLIS and the LPA. It's kind of what pulls it all together. Now, just moving on, I just wanted to, before I pass over to Elizabeth, just point to basically what is a PIC reconciliation. It is, by way of summary, it is basically a process that identifies any discrepancies between the number of electronic identification devices or tags that you have registered to your PIC in the NLIS database. That when you purchase them, they get registered to your PIC, so they're on there. And then when you do your reconciliation, you can determine the discrepancy between what's on your PIC and what's actually out on your farm in an animal's ear, or what you might have still in the drawer or a cupboard somewhere waiting to be used. So it just gives you that opportunity to see where there might be some gaps. This next slide talks about why would you do a PIC reconciliation. So essentially, and apart from trying to keep things tidy and organised, it's also really vital for fast, effective traceability in the event of a disease outbreak or a food safety issue. So by knowing what animals are where quickly means the authorities can rapidly track and trace impacted livestock, and this minimises the potential for the whole industry. So that's one of the big reasons. Another one is that you know what's been used and what's still to be used. So it's just a good way of managing what you've got in the way of your devices and where they're up to, what their statuses are. The other key, it's not so much a why, but it's just something you need to always remember, is that if you're receiving or moving livestock, that needs to be updated on the NLIS within 2 days. It's a really key point. We do keep mentioning it because it is quite important for the traceability, the integrity of the traceability system to continue to work. So that's, in a nutshell, a very high level introduction of what you're going to learn about tonight. But what I'm going to do now is pass you over to Elizabeth, who's going to take you through a bit more of a deeper dive into all of these areas. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Victoria, and hi, everyone. We've gone 1, 2, 5. There we go. All right, slides coming together. So as Sheree mentioned, I'm going to just run you through a little bit more around the PIC reconciliation and tips before we hand over to George to demonstrate how to actually do it on the database. So as a refresher, the National Livestock Identification System is comprised of 3 different things that all work together to give us traceability of our livestock. So we've got your Property Identification Code, which is your PIC that represents the location of animals where they are. Then we've got your animal identification, which is the NLIS tags that go in their ears. So we're talking about electronic tags in particular. And so when the tags and the PICs work together to identify the livestock and the properties, and then we're recording the movements of tags between different PICs in the NLIS database. So those 3 things work to give us traceability. And we're going to talk about how we keep the tags matching what's actually on the property and the database all nice and tidy. So the key thing to remember is that when you buy tags, so you might buy them from an online seller, you might go to your rural retailer, you might, if you're in Victoria, buy them through the tag room. When you buy those tags, the tag manufacturer codes them and uploads them to the database and puts them onto your PIC in the database for you. So when you buy the tags and you physically get them in the post, they're already on the database ready for you to use. So they're all sitting there active and alive on the database, so that when you go and move or sell those animals, they're all sitting there active. The key thing to remember is if you've got that list of tags and you've used some and you've put some in animals, then you've got unused tags, which is what Sheree was saying about tags that are in the drawer, and the ones that you've already used on animals. The other way that you get tags on your PIC in the database is when you buy in livestock, or maybe you buy a property and there's a bit of a consolidation process. So every time you bring livestock onto your property, they're supposed to be transferred in the NLIS database to make sure that those tags are then registered to your PIC. So that's a key thing that happens, and how different tags get onto your PIC in the database. As you move them off, again, they're going off your PIC, so they're active and they're moving through the supply chain and giving us that traceability. In the database in your account for your PIC, you can actually set different statuses to tags. So if you notice that one of your animals has died, or a tag is lost and you found it, you can actually change the status of that PIC to represent that it's no longer an active or used tag, or that animal or that tag is actually deceased. So there's different ways you can manage it as you go through your operations. But the PIC reconciliation is really just a stock take of all of that to make sure that all the tags you buy, all the tags you've used, all the animals you've brought and sold matches up physically to what's actually registered on the database. And that's really important for traceability, because if we do have a disease outbreak and tracing needs to happen, the state authorities who do all that work, they look on the database and see potentially how many tags you've got active on your PIC, and that gives them an indication of the risk factors in relation to the spread of that disease. So really important for biosecurity, and keeps things easy for you as well when you're trying to understand what's coming and going as well. Now, we do recommend doing it once a year, or when you definitely buy and sell properties. And if you're in the European Union program with the cattle, it is a requirement to do that once a year as well. And before I hand over to George, touching on why there are discrepancies in the first place and why the PIC reconciliation is even a thing. So firstly, it's normally because transfers aren't done. So basically you're buying and selling, you're not bringing them on or moving them off on the database in accordance with that. So you might have tags that are still sitting on your PIC that you've already sold, or you've brought them on and they're physically with you, but you haven't actually done that movement onto your property. Or maybe your agent didn't do it, or the sale yard messed up, or there's something went wrong. So it's about tidying up those things. Other reasons is that maybe the animals have died, or they've wandered away and you've never gotten them back, or a tag's fallen out, or that it's broken, or something like that. The other is if you've done a PIC reconciliation before and you've maybe misplaced a bag of tags, you marked them as inactive previously, but then you found them, it's basically reactivating them. So there's various reasons why there could be discrepancies and why doing a PIC reconciliation can help you and your business. And just one last thing before I hand over to George, which is the nuts and bolts of tonight, is around how to, just before you start, what you should be looking to do. So if you haven't got an NLIS account, please go and get one. It's free. You just apply online, and that'll be for your PIC. So the more you use the system, the more familiar you'll get with it and the easier it will feel. The key thing is that you need to actually get the list of tags. So that's using a scanner and scanning all your livestock. So when you muster or you're bringing them in, you have to get every single one of them, and get that list of tags that are attached to the livestock actually on your property, and combine it with the list of tags from any spare tags that you have. So there's a few different ways to get those spare tags if you haven't. If you've got a fresh order, you can actually download that from the database, but effectively you need to scan all the tags and all the animals and combine it into a spreadsheet before you get started, and have that ready to go, because that's what you use in order to do that PIC reconciliations, basically everything that's on the property, so we can compare it to what's on the database and tidy up those ones that are missing or misaligning. But that's enough talking from me. We'll hand over to George, and George is going to demonstrate to you how to do the PIC reconciliation and a few key things around that sort of stuff. So George, over to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and welcome everybody. Share my screen. Okay, I'll talk you through today the process of doing a whole PIC reconciliation from the start. You need an NLIS account, as Elizabeth just pointed out, and from that account, we'll log in and we'll do a PIC reconciliation using my test account. So I've got a test account here. Now, we'll ask everyone to go to nlis.com.au, but log in via MyMalay, and I'll click on this link here. Takes you to a MyMalay login. If you don't have a MyMalay account, you can sign up for it. And I'll show you the advantage of using MyMalay. So I've been around for 26 years, since 1999, actually December 1999, when NLIS first started. It was pretty simple. We got into one account and we could do 2 or 3 functions. We've since grown, and you've also incorporated more than just NLIS now. So we look after LPA and, as I mentioned earlier, NVDs as well. So these are all part of our program. This is the MyMalay page. We can link LPA, NLIS if you have more than one NLIS account, MSA, MyFeedback, EMD, and Sheep Genetic. They're 4 different accounts that all fall under the umbrella of MLA. You can all log into via MyMalay. Link them in once. When you've done that, you just have to remember one password, one user ID, one I've had before, and you can get into any of these accounts. So I go into my NLIS, continue to NLIS. I have 2 accounts here. I'll use my producer account, log in. Now I'm in my producer account. So there was my producer homepage. Welcome, George. Ensure that your details are up to date. We do email you for things like this webinar, or if there are any other issues that we need to inform you about, such as we're taking the system down for a day or a couple of hours to do some major upgrades. So keep in mind that you should have these details up to date. From here, the first thing you can look at if you're new is click on the help button up top. Help tools. And we're going to look at it. These are all the tips or user guides for cattle. Now I've got sheep mobs. These are the guides for sheep mobs. So if you're moving as a mob-based movement, these are all the user guides. Some are quite modern, up to date, July 24. Some are quite old, April 2014. They still do the job. So we go back to the home page. And as most of you are aware, sheep EID is coming in. It's been mandatory in Victoria for a while. And if you're in New South Wales or any other state and territory apart from Victoria, you're now using sheep EID. So we need to add sheep EID. So all I can do now is work with cattle or sheep mobs. So we'll scroll down here. And what do I want to do today? I want to click on this, change my types of livestock right up the top. We go. We're now doing sheep individual. We've also got goat individual. You continue. And now from this drop-down menu, the new species or new transaction types are now available. So we'll leave it on cattle. And there's this hide header, which is being put up here in the top right-hand corner to give us more real estate. So when you're using the system, if you don't need any help tools, you click on hide header and it gives you more space. I'm now wearing glasses for the first time, so I need more, bigger text. So this enables you to see the screen a bit better. The first thing we're going to do is we change our type of livestock. We're working with cattle. And these are the functions we can do. Broken up into 3 sections. So cow management, where you change your livestock type, which we just did. You're going to change your email address or phone number. Then under this blue heading, notify the database, these are actions. That is, you're going to change data. Change the data, I mean, you're going to move an animal, do a PIC reconciliation, so set tags to inactive, move an animal on your property or off your property. So these are actions. Then below are queries or reports, looking at data. So the first thing we'll do is we'll look at some data, look at a list of tags we've got on our property. So go down here, we'll look at view, generate all reports. And click go. As mentioned, this is we built the system in 1999, we redesigned it in 2006, and now we're completely rebuilding it, so hopefully it'll be more intuitive. So from here we can have a large list of reports. The first one we're going to look at is active devices on my property. If you have more than one PIC or one property, they'll be listed here. I've already got one. We're going to click go. So brought up in the second, maybe 1.5 seconds, a list of all the active devices on my property of this one here, QD, ZZ333. And there's 2,273 of them. There's 20 per page. You can click on all, and it will bring up the whole lot, whole 2,273 on the one page. And then you can scroll down. All the way down the bottom. These, as you can see, have got different numbers, and I'll go through those numbers in a minute. But these animals have got different, or these tag numbers are different. These are my accounts, so these are tags that have been transferred on. So my PIC is this one, QDZZ. These are, again, my old test tags. So these are, you see it's got NI504571. That's the start of the tag number. So there's two numbers on a tag. There's the microchip number, which is the RFID. This number here, that's the RFID, and you get that by using a scanner. And that's the number inside the tag. And on the outside of the tag is the NLIS ID. It tells us a bit of information. It tells us that this tag was issued with this PIC. NI504571, that's where it was issued to. We know it ends in New South Wales, and 50 is the shire that this property was on, or where this tag was, where it came from. We know it's the X tag, which means it's an all-flex tag. We know it's an E, which means it's a post-breeder tag. And the tag was made in the year V, which is 2022. Sorry, 2000. So it circulates every 24 years. So that's when that tag was made. There's a list of all the tags that are currently on my property. You can sort by all of these columns, and you can export the data. So if we wanted to export this data, we scroll down the bottom. We want to export. And we only want to export the RFID and the NLIS ID. They're the two things you want to export. If you want to put it into your software systems, hit submit, open, and there's the complete list. So you can save this in whatever format you need, usually a CSV file. A lot of software systems rely on a thing called a CSV file. And that way you can install it into your on-farm software systems. That's a list of tags currently recorded on your property. And we say tags because they may have been used in animals, they may have not been. So animals that have been transferred on are obviously animals. Tags that you purchased may still be in their bag or in the drawer in the cupboard unused. We'll get a list of them next. So we'll go back to here. And we want to get devices purchased. We'll click on all the devices purchased in the last 12 months for this property, for cattle. Click go. So the system can be a little bit slower than this, but at the moment it's actually quite fast. I mean, as you saw, that probably took less than a second to give us back a result of 1,001 tags. So let's just say that I purchased this property here, DZ3333, which is me, in the last 12 months, purchased 1,001 tags. I purchased these ones on the 4th of the 4th. Again, these are tags. As soon as the tag is inserted into, as soon as you purchase a tag, the tag manufacturer puts them into the database against your PIC. No one considers them as live animals, but they're considered to be tags or devices on your PIC. You don't have to do anything with them. You don't have to set them to active or inactive. You don't have to tell us they're in animals. What you need to do is make sure they are in animals' ears before they leave your property. That's the most important bit. Again, if you scroll down, there's only 20 on this page. You can select all. Then you get the whole 1,000. You can export that data again. The use for this particular report is called a tag bucket file. So those who used to buy tags several years ago would remember that if you bought tags 20 years ago, when you bought the tags, you got a floppy disk, and that floppy disk contained these tags, and it was called a tag bucket file. And then later used to email them. The tag manufacturer would email you a list called the tag bucket file, and that consisted of the RFID number and the NLIS number, called the tag bucket file. You can now just export that directly out of NLIS. And the tag manufacturers no longer obviously send out USB sticks or floppy drives or CD-ROMs anymore. They simply ask you to download what was called many years a tag bucket file directly out of NLIS. So go back up the top. We'll go back to the top left hand here and go home. And now to get into a bit of the nitty-gritty, so reconciliation. So what do I want to do? We're going to do actions this time. So we're going to move up here, hit reconciliation. Here you go. Gives us an explanation of what we are attempting to do. So you need to have one thing with you to be able to complete this, and that is you need every device on your property. So used tags, that is tags in animals' ears, and those that have not yet been used. So when you have that list, you put them into a file, and that file can be an Excel file or a Notepad file. I've got mine in my Notepad file. There's mine. There's a list of tags that I scanned. So they're in my, I've got them with me. I can continue. Now, there is a limit to 10,000, do it on screen or in a file. If there's more than 10,000, we'll still accept it, we'll still process it. But what we'll do is we'll park it and do it in the afternoon or evening when the database is not busy. So we don't want to disturb people's scanning, especially in sale yards and abattoirs. And this will take a lot of resources. Now, the new system, which will be coming in about 12 months' time, will overcome this issue. We're going to upload more than 10,000. Understand this was set up at cattle 25 years ago, where the numbers weren't that high. So we've got a list of the tags, we're in the database, and we're going to do it two ways. The first way is in typing the details. And this is common throughout the entire NLIS database. So if you're doing a transfer, it'll give you an option to upload a file or do it on screen. I find, and in the many years of training people, showing them how to do it on screen is a lot easier. So I'll click on I want to, type in the details manually on screen. pieces of information, the tag numbers, which I copied from my notepad file or Excel file. So there's the list there. And the property I'm running off is QD ZZ 3333. Now I click into keeping in mind that this list has come from my scanner scanning all devices. So it's telling me 2,145. That will take longer, probably seconds to process this. Now it's comparing that list of tags I've just submitted with the list of all the current devices on my property. So saying these are fine. The fine devices are active and they're registered to your property. You don't have to worry about these. This is the concern, this is the problem area. They're saying 22 tags. We'll go down to get them all. It's saying these 22 tags are not on my property. So I've scanned them. I've put them in the system saying I've scanned these animals on my property, and the system is saying they're not on there. One of two things has happened. You've either purchased these animals and haven't scanned them and transferred them onto your property, or alternatively, they've been moved off after you scanned it. So if you've got a very large property, 10,000 acres, and it might take you 2 months to scan all your livestock, you may have sold these in the meantime. So something to keep in mind that these animals have either not been, they're still on your property, but you didn't transfer them on, or they've subsequently moved off your property. Now, it gives us an indication where they came from. Look at this PIC BZZ2222, gives an indication where they came from. And we'll do a quick search for that tag. From your home page, you're able to run this report called Search the PIC Register. That was QBZZ2222. That's where we know the animal was tagged. Again, my details, these are my accounts, but telling us that's where the animal was tagged. Those 22 need to be transferred on my property, or I can ignore them because I know I've sold them since the scan. And if it's the first one, that is, you purchased the animal, but you didn't do the transfer, look at the numbers. Look at the first 8 characters, and you go, well, that's where the tag was applied, that's where the animal got its tag. Maybe it's come from somewhere else, but it gives you an indication. And then look out your LPA NVD. When you're receiving animals, you should always get it, or try and always get an LPA NVD. If you're part of the LPA program, which most people are, look for the LPA NVD. Get a copy and have a look and see if you can marry these tag numbers. So that's the most difficult part of it all. The rest, pretty simple. This, I might put this in, for purposes of doing a demonstration. We're saying they're not cattle, they're keeping tag tags. Click on continue, takes us to the next page. Again, pretty simple. There's 26 and I'll do them all. So the following devices, they are registered to the PIC, but you did not submit them. So if these devices are no longer on your PIC, you can select them and set them to inactive. So we're going to make all these tags inactive. There we go, select all. And we're going to make them inactive. And these are the opposite. They're saying, well, these tags, you told us last time they were inactive, but now they've been in your scan. So these could have been typically, I did a scan for a fella years ago, and he had some animals, some cows calving, so he didn't scan them the first time around. So when we did the PIC reconciliation, we set those animals, those cows, to inactive. Next time we did a scan, they showed up. So these we're going to set to inactive. These we're going to set we're going to remove the inactive status, make them active again. Hit continue. And it's saying, before you want to do this, before you're about to change the status of these devices, 26 devices, inactive. It's setting the status of inactive on, and this one is the opposite. It's an inactive to off. You hit send. That's now going to send those two files to the database to say, set those 4, make it active again. Those 26, make them inactive. So now we go and get an upload ID. Elizabeth mentioned if you're part of the EU program, UCAS, you're asked to do a PIC reconciliation every year, and you need to provide some information to the UCAS auditors. What you need to provide is this upload ID. So you can say, I did a PIC reconciliation on this date, and here's my upload ID. They can then look that up and make sure that it all went through. Now we'll click on View My Transaction History, the big button down here, and this is going to show me all the things I've done in the system today. And this is the PIC reconciliation I just did now. It's telling me that I did the PIC reconciliation. These are the ones I set to active and inactive. So inactive has been turned on and inactive turned off for these 4. And it's been turned on for these 26. So you saw on screen actually gets generated into a file. Yeah, and this is the file here. When I ran it on the screen, it creates this PIC reconciliation. So all those 4 or 5 fields you saw before, this is the data, that all gets generated on the fly. Other reports I ran the report called device purchase. So this simply collects a record on your account, no one else's, that you ran these reports. These are things that I did today in my own account. But the ones that are important are the ones we just did now. And this is the most important one, interactive upload. So these tags, like I said, there were 26 we set to inactive, and the 4 we've reactivated. We'll close, go back home. I'll run the reconciliation again. So from the home page, from the home page, I want to PIC reconciliation. Hit go. We've read this before. 10,000 is the limit. We know that. We're going to type in the details. I'm going to do the same tag numbers again. QDZZ, that's my property. We hit continue. That's going to create that PIC reconciliation file. Now we've got those extra 4s, 2245 before, 2249. We've got those 4 extra tags in there. These are still there, the query 2. We haven't transferred these on yet. These are still there, so the fit and go tags. Had nothing to do anymore. We don't have to set, so nothing at this level to do. We don't have to set anything to inactive or active. So we've just did that a few minutes ago. Did that 3 minutes ago, 4 minutes ago. So go back. These are fine. These are not cattle, so ignore them. Once again, these are the ones we need to sort out. So we'll get a list of all of them. 422. Export. We'll click on the export, get these tag numbers, and we need to either transfer them onto my PIC, or we can have a look and see if they've moved off my PIC recently. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. These are the only ones that can cause a problem. Now, as you saw in the inactive status, I set some to inactive a while ago. Pretty easy to set them active again. So if you set animals or tags to inactive, and then they appear and they're on a truck and you sold them, As soon as they get scanned, picked up anywhere else, the inactive status gets turned off straight away. They become active again. So don't be afraid to make a mistake and set them to inactive. Don't go and set all your tags to inactive by any means. But if a tag is set to inactive, like these cows calving, you didn't scan them, you don't have to panic because they will be picked up when they get scanned again. So next time someone tries to do a transfer of those animals that you've set inactive, they'll appear again. So again, these are the hardest ones to work out. You can call your local land services in Wales or your DPI in other states and territories, and they can help you through these. Check your NVD, you'll find most of the time by looking at this, you'll know who the person is. Their PIC will be on the NVD that you've got if they haven't bought these animals from other people. Go back home. Now you can upload a file. We'll do the same thing very quickly. PIC reconciliation. So you can upload a file. I did upload a file, and I'll show you what the file looks like. Elizabeth had it on her screen. It was her last screen to be showed you. This is pretty much the same thing. You do it on screen. You have the tag numbers. And the QD says, yeah, I copy and paste all the tag numbers and I selected my property. So that's what the file looks like. You upload. So you do. You upload this file. You sure you want to do it? There's always a confirmation. You sure you're about to do this? You go, yes. So that's going to send the same request, but you get the results back in an email. And I did this an hour or so ago. And this is what you get back. So you get back a full email saying you did a PIC reconciliation. There's a zip file here. You double click on it. Some people will automatically have their software systems put this in junk because it's got a zip file. So just keep an eye on it. Gives you 4 files. Pretty much what we saw on the screen. Tags that can be made active. And now like 4 that we had before. And 4 tag numbers we saw before. So you can upload this file to the system. The ones you made inactive, I think there were 26 from memory. Yep, there were 26 of them. The same things, the tag number, today's date, and these are making these 26 inactive. To the large one, 1,445, whatever it was. These are all okay. We don't need to do anything with them. So they're fine. There's no file. And the problem one that you need to work out. Have you solved these since or have you not? Now, on the file, it gives you a bit more information. Because they're not on the PIC, we know that. But it says these were transferred off the property recently. Doesn't give you the date. But you know that you transferred these off. So therefore, they're more than likely the ones that have been sold after your scan. These ones, you've never scanned onto your property. They've never ever been on your property. So these are the ones you need to transfer on your property. You have to do that manually. So you copy the tag numbers. And we're doing something completely different now. So you've got the tag numbers, I've copied them. Livestock that have moved onto my property. Again, like I said, you get options to do things on screen, upload a file. This time I'm going to on the screen. Again, these are the tag numbers I was copied from that Excel spreadsheet. This is where you need to find out where they've come from. Calling your local department or looking up your LPA NVD that you received them. Or like I said, if you look at these PICs, you'll know that QBZZ 2222 belongs to George Russell, to me. Where they come into, the waybill number, and that'll transfer them onto your PIC. So that's done manually the same way with PIC reconciliation. Obviously, it won't allow me to do this because of that. But if that was the person who sold the animal, you again confirm if you want to do this, moving from this property to this property. Hit send. Job's done now. Confirm that by going to my transaction history again. What have I done today? And this is the last one I just did now. Reduce the transfers. And 46. And it's come back as complete, which means it's all been done. So that's the easiest way to do it. So we go back here to the zip files that we did. These two files you can save and you can upload. And you upload by going to device status. So we're going to change the status of the tag of the device. Go and go. And this time we can upload a file. Get that file that we've saved on the hard drive and we can upload it. I haven't saved it yet. If you save it, you can upload the file and we go straight through. So go back home. Back to here. So we can click on device status. Hopefully, I'll see if I can save it on screen. Usually takes me a couple of minutes to finish. So upload a file. Choose a file. This is one we just did. So this came back to it automatically. Send. Confirmation again. This is what you want to do. Upload ID. Review what we've done today. Error. I've already set the status. We'll click on what the error says. Device. This device already has that status. Because I set it up earlier. So that's the simple process. Sounds pretty simple. It looks simple when you've done it 100 times. Trust me, the most difficult part of the experience is the scanning of all the devices. So the devices that are unused and the devices in animals' ears. The easiest way to do it, like I said, is do it on screen. Everything goes through pretty simply. The advantage of uploading a file is it gives you back that Excel spreadsheet. Gives you back this Excel spreadsheet with a bit more information about these ones. So because these have gone off your property, so now they've gone off. And you don't have to worry about them anymore. These are the only ones you need to worry about. The ones that have never been transferred on your PIC. And you need to try and get the person who sold you those animals. And that's it for me.
Thank you, George. Well done on that demonstration. there is a lot to digest, and certainly lots of questions that have come through in the Q&A tonight. And I know the team have been doing a really great job at answering them, and there are still some open questions there. All questions that are asked will be answered, just to reiterate what I mentioned earlier, and they will all come out to you in a transcript that will be emailed with a recording of tonight's session, along with these slides. And I think hopefully you will find that useful when it comes time to do a PIC reconciliation for your property. Now, I guess before we wrap up, I just wanted to leave you with these top 3 PIC reconciliation takeaways that we thought might help to just consolidate the sort of top 3 things that we kind of wanted you to take away tonight. So I guess number 1, and I know we keep going on about this, but the 2 days to update the NLIS within 2 days of receiving livestock. It's really important this is done quickly, because that's within this 2-day timeframe, because of the essentially the biosecurity and traceability requirements, and this will what keeps the system up to date nationally, so it becomes quite important. Now, it is a receiver's responsibility to do this, and we do say that in lots of our presentations and communications. It is up to the receiver of livestock to do this, but it doesn't hurt to check that it has happened. And, you know, doing a PIC reconciliation is one way to do that. But yeah, it doesn't hurt to check that your PIC, that what's on your PIC in the NLIS is actually what's on your property, because at the end of the day, that's kind of what you want to know. So that would be our number 1, is to make sure if you're receiving stock, you bring them onto your PIC within the 2 days. And when you're selling, as much as it's not technically your responsibility, sometimes it's a good idea to check so that the transfer has been done. Number 2 for our top takeaways is, and George touched on this in his demonstration, but it's basically about, before you get started with the PIC reconciliation, you need to prepare a current file of your spare and used tags. Now, he went through how to do that in the demo, and it is all there recorded for you. But basically, in your file, you just need to remember, you just want your PIC number and your tags and your tag numbers in the next column, no headings or anything like that. And that's sort of what you need to get started. Then our 3rd big takeaway is the PIC reconciliation once a year, just to keep things organized on your system. Make sure you know where your tags are at, what you haven't used yet. I think they're probably the main points that we try to get across amongst a lot of information that we've given out tonight. I noticed from the questions, there's been many questions asked, which is fantastic. And we love that engagement and that you're really keen to know more. I guess one of the ones that stood out to me, and I just thought I'd raise it because we've got a few minutes left, is about lost tags and what to do if you have them. And I thought that was probably something that might happen quite a lot out there. But the response was to put a new one in and mark the tag as lost in the NLIS system. And if you don't know the tag numbers that were lost, then doing a PIC reconciliation, which is what we've gone through tonight, will help identify that for you. So that was a good one. And then the other one was, if you buy a property, one of our attendees put a question in about buying a property with tags on the PIC. So on the NLIS, the property indicates there's tags, but there was no animals actually there. So yeah, so I thought that was another one to raise. Basically, mark them as inactive on the NLIS, and then if they pop up again, they'll be reactivated. So that was just some key tips that came through in the questions. We've still got some questions coming in. While the team keeps on answering those, I just wanted to let you know we have got a lot of how-to guides on our website. This slide deck has got these 2 methods of PIC reconciliation, the file upload method and the type in details method that George covered. So you'll be able to access these resources that step through what he's shown you tonight. there's videos, and there's also hard copy PDF or paper guides that you can look at. So that's very specific on the PIC reconciliation guide. We've got a bunch of other resources as well to do with the NLIS on our system. Sheep and goat EID resources as well, because we know that's coming in for many and it's new. So there's a lot of help online for that. I wanted to also point out our customer service centre is also open now 7 days a week. So the number is at the end of our slide deck, and we'll get to that shortly. But if you do need help on a Saturday or a Sunday, you can now access it. So please get in touch if you need anything. And I think that is probably going to wrap us up. Looks like there's a few more questions in the Q&A, which we'll get to. The phone number is there for the customer service number, the 1-800 number. If you need to call, please do. There's also an email address to be in touch with there. But yeah, I just encourage you to get in touch if you get stuck, and the team can help. There will be a survey popping up soon on your screen, which we would really appreciate if you could take a moment to fill it in, to give us some feedback on how you found this session, and if there are any other topics that you would like covered. We're more than happy to look at putting on webinars. We do a lot of webinars at Integrity Systems, and so we're always looking for ideas of other topics that producers might find interesting or would like to know. So thank you very much for your questions and your time, and we hope you found this session useful. And thank you to George and Elizabeth for presenting tonight, and George for demonstrating. He's been doing this for a long time, so he understands the system very thoroughly. Thank you to our team behind the scenes that have been answering all of your questions, and thank you to you all for attending.